Good morning, everyone. We got a big group this morning, so we're going to give everybody just a couple more seconds to grab their cup of coffee, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Got a few more people just logging in, and then we will go ahead and get started talking about some of the new benefits and features in your new Paragon system, some things that are coming, and some great enhancements. So we will give everybody just one more minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started. While Brian is logging in as well, I just wanted to let you know that if you have any questions today, and I know there's a lot of questions when it comes to change, especially in our MLS, you are welcome to put them into the questions box within GoToWebinar, which is probably right now minimized at the right-hand side of your screen. There is going to be some handouts for you that I'm adding in right now. And we'll be going through some of what you can expect to see in your new Paragon. Brian's going to take you through some of the things that have been added, some of the differences, and then I'm going to walk you through some time-saving tips and techniques and some of the new enhancements that you'll have within Paragon. All right, so I've got a few more people just logging in. As I mentioned, you can open up that questions panel. You can ask questions throughout the demonstration today. And with that, looks like Brian is logging in. Good morning, Brian. Just so you know, Brian. All right. I know you've been working hard day and night, Brian, making all this happen.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Nothing like the last minute.
Yeah, well, you know, no conversion is perfect. So I appreciate all your efforts. I have to tell you, Brian has been working late into the night and all weekends, making sure all that data is flowing. Conversions and change in general are always hard. And I will say this as an agent of 22 years, I hate change. Change is always difficult, but when you see the new great tools and the benefits and how much more data you're going to have, hopefully you'll think all of that is worth it. But again, we do know change is hard. We get used to looking for things in a certain way or a certain field, and sometimes it's a little hard to expand our thinking. But with that, I'd like to first and foremost welcome you on this Friday, and thanks for joining us. My name is Colleen DeLang. I actually am staff here at MiRealSource, and as I mentioned, also been an agent for a long time, so I can empathize with going through the change, but I'm also going to show you some time-saving tips and techniques that are going to make it better. This is just one of the classes that we're offering. There is a whole, I just actually got Amanda and Cindy's approval to push the next classes out. So we'll be teaching Cloud CMA, the Collaboration Center, Paragon Basics, Paragon Advanced, your new features in HomeSnap. So there's some really great tools coming. So when you're thinking about, oh, I hate change, remember there is I promise there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian, our Chief Technical Officer. As I mentioned, he's been working, making all of that data flow. And Brian, thanks for all you're doing. I know it's been a tremendous effort in making all of this work together. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, change is not easy. You know, so what I'm going to try to explain here and justify the reason that you're going to go through this painful and I apologize, but you know, we're doing our best. Change. This change at the end will definitely be beneficial. But something I want to let you know is, you know, we've been doing this for over 12 years. We've actually onboarded 9 other associations in the same manner. Each one has their same unique issues or questions, or you know, these are things that are what makes one MLS different from the other. And this is part of the problem in the industry too, is the huge differences are what NAR is trying to pull together with what are called standards, and I'll go into that shortly. But what you're not giving up is the branding. that you're still your own MLS. You'll have your fields, communication, rules, you have your same rules, but it's all supported by one phone number or one support staff, which is MiRealSource. Now, what we're working on right now at this post-conversion, in other words, as of April 4th, we're still working on some additional UPAR fields, although I think we have cleared up the Great Lakes and interior lakes. I still need to verify that. I think there was still some questions on whether that was completely backfilled from your old system. And that includes some other fields that we're still working on. So, keep that feedback, hit that corrections button, and I'll continue to remind you that through this presentation. Showing time is up and running. Still working on Cloud CMA. So we're in communication with Lone Wolf about where we're at, if they've converted everything the way they're supposed to. Same goes with HomeSnap. Still working on that, and BSNA deep linking. Now this is something new. We're going to start linking to the BSNA records, if available, from the listing records in Paragon. Now, this does not cover the cost of any BSNA records. So just to be clear, all this is just the linking to the record. If there's a fee, that is on the agent to pay that fee to access the record. Single property websites, those started this week. You may get emails for any new listings that allow you to promote on social media. Okay, data sharing. Now, some things that came up that I think it may not, you may not have appreciated by bringing on all of this new data, but right now, or previously, you were at 400, 450 agents. Now, what you're getting with this new data is not only the data, but you're getting eyes from approximately over 7,000 agents. So you can now tell your clients that, where it was previously only seen by 400, 450 agents, it's now going to be seen by over 7,000 agents that have, ready to go buyers. So, consider that as a marketing term, in addition to the public sites that are available. Okay, Wisconsin data, just reminding everyone that we did include all of the, at least the properties that were in your previous system, those counties and areas. Now, I did add in all the counties, but we added in 94 areas, municipalities, mail cities, 27 school districts. Now, if there's any that are missing in Wisconsin, please let me know. We can easily have that added into the list of areas, school districts, and so on. Now, we did add the following fields. So, bear in mind, they're in there, they're in the listing entry. So this is something that you can definitely enter in this information. In addition to this, and I did not add it on the slide yet, is we did extend the public remarks and the agent remarks to 2,000 characters. So previously in our system, it was limited to 1,000. Well, you definitely needed more than that, but at this point, we were able to expand it to 2,000. So that definitely, from what I can see, will cover all of your remarks fields, or at least the public and the agent remarks. Okay, RESO. Now this is the standards that I had mentioned. We're all bound by this. So whether you had done it before, you're definitely going to have to do it now. This is something that the National Association of Realtors is requiring your MLS to do. And that means adding these additional fields, changing existing fields, maybe even eliminating non-standard fields, and providing it in a particular format that meets these standards. And the whole point of this is so that it opens the opportunity for more vendors, more products. So really the idea is that you as brokers, agents, and appraisers benefit by this, these set of standards. So just bear that in mind. And these changes are are required of us to not only in the field names and in those standards, but there's some new rules coming down that how they're published out on public sites. So the disclosure of the listing agent, office, and contact information. So, stay tuned for those standards and requirements from NAR. Okay, missing required fields. If you haven't entered a listing, you'll definitely get hit with some of these fields at some point with the existing listings that came over from your old system. And this is simply what you're going to see. Those errors at the top tell you what you need to fill in. You just click on that line and it'll take you to those fields. Okay, notable points of difference. Previously, you only had rentals in residential and commercial, and they were in a separate class. In this system, the rentals are available in all classes. So you just simply, when you're entering a listing, you select whether it's a sale or it's a rental, and that will dictate what is required from that point forward. Also, there was some confusion between some of your statuses, especially the pending with contingency and the pending with backup and pending with kickout. The pending with contingency in your previous system was an active listing. It would continue to accrue days on market, which is essentially an on market, and it should be available for showings. Now, that's equivalent to our contingent keep showing contingency applies. If you do not want to show your property anymore, that is a pending status, a true pending status. You have an accepted offer and you're no longer showing the property. Withdrawn is now conditionally withdrawn, which means it's still under a listing agreement. Cancel is equivalent to unconditionally withdrawn, and sold is now closed. Something that you'll now see is the coming soon status. Now, to be clear, your board has not adopted this this status, but what this status is an active no-show property, and it's on entry. Now, some data share members use it, some don't. For those that use it, they're allowed this at entry for up to 7 days, and there's no showings in those 7 days, but you can schedule showings in the future when that property will go on market, and that's disclosed under the activation date. Now, again, there's no showings during that period, but you can schedule showings after that date that it's gone active. Not when it's active, but when it post-activation date. So for more information on that, contact your board. We just want to be clear as to what that coming soon is. It's something that's nationally recognized, so it was something that we had to add under NAR's guidelines. Now, one thing that we did have to change was that original MLS number search. That has been changed to the UPAR MLS number. Now, if all you know is the original MLS number that was in your previous system, use that field and you could search for it by that old MLS number. And this is just a reminder of what I mentioned. And what you need to do, again, it's not too late to start exporting those saved searches and importing them into Paragon. And it's not too late, and I would suggest never stop hitting that corrections button. This is what makes your MLS better. This is what helps me correct things at this point in time. So hit that corrections button. If something is incorrect, I see it. I can respond to you as to where we're at with that. So again, continue to hit that corrections button. And exporting saved searches, this unfortunately is a manual process. Go under your saved searches, bring them up. You'll see the criteria summary, enter that information into the new MLS system. And verify the accuracy of your listings. Now, I did my best to create what was your all fields detail as the UPAR all fields detail, and you'll find that under specialty views. verify that information. If you see something that's incorrect, click on it. Right now, we're working on that tax ID. As you can see, even in this example, that should be the property ID, but I'm still working with the vendor for Paragon to get that corrected. But don't stop reporting. If you still see something incorrect, continue to report it. Can't stress that enough. And if it's not your listing or you don't know anything about it, but you still notice this on another listing, at the very least, if this information is not correct, the area, municipality, mail city, school district, geolocation. Geolocation is where is it on the map? If it's not correct on the map, report it. And if you haven't logged in, all you have to do is simply add the capital U, capital P to your existing login to your old system, and the password is the same. Remember, this is case sensitive. And actually, I'm going to go back to that one. And if, for instance, you cannot log in, it says you have the wrong login or password, try the forgot password. If that doesn't work, contact our support. We can help you out, but we'll only send your password to the email address on file. So just remember that. We won't give it over the phone. We'll send it to the email address that you have with the MLS. Any questions?
Nope, no questions so far, Brian.
Question free? Wow.
Yeah, I think well, actually, if you do have any questions, please make sure to put them in the questions box. You'll find that, again, in the GoToWebinar panel toward the bottom. Feel free to type in any questions for Brian.
Yep, I guess we're going to switch places now.
I guess so. I don't see any questions. I thought you explained it very, very well. All right, so I will get the fun job from here. But right now, like I said, if you do have any questions, now's a great time. We know that, oh, there's a question, see? Do we know if Zillow was updated with the new feed? Right?
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, but what they need to know is to stop pulling from the old, your old version. So we are working with them today. We're working with Realtor.com, Redfin, all of the major sites. So I just ask everyone for your patience, and I'll let you know when those major sites, IDX, all of that. So if you're on my email, I did not forget about you. We are definitely contacting these IDX and the national sites. We're in contact with them, so just be patient. We're working as quickly as we can to get those feeds restored and corrected.
Awesome. Okay. If you have any other questions for Brian, now is a great time to put them in. I actually get the fun job. Brian has all the hard work. He has been behind the scenes, making sure all that data is flowing, making sure, and again, we know no conversion is perfect, but we've been doing this long enough to know that our first week, we've got the showing time link resolved, the contacts have all been moved, and now we're seeing those. There were a few things that were unique to you guys that we did not have in the system. So those are things that we've had to add, things that, like in our market, we don't really search on the Great Lakes, but we found that you did. So what we needed to do is go in and add that to feature. So I'm going to show you where you can find some of those things today. I'm also going to show you some things that we've added to make searching a little bit easier on your behalf. But again, it is a work in progress. That first week is always difficult, so we do appreciate your patience. And I'm going to walk you through some easy ways to search and some of the things that we've added that were unique to you that you now can search on. So, all right, with that, I'm going to turn my fuzzy hair off and get into the meat and potatoes, which is what you're here for. All right, so if you're newer to Paragon, I'm going to show you a couple easy ways to search. I'm also going to show you where you can add the UPAR MLS field so that you can search for previous UPAR MLS numbers. We're also going to talk about features where you can find things. I'm getting a tremendous amount of tickets coming through support looking for things like pond. You know, I've always searched on pond. I don't see pond. Pond is still there. And as soon as it's pointed out, matter of fact, one of a great email I got this morning was, wow, I love the water features. We didn't have half of these and they're really convenient. So sometimes it's just looking in a different place. But I do, as an agent, stress that I know how hard that is. We do empathize. It's, everybody's getting back to work right now. So sometimes it is difficult to, try to learn it a new way or look for it in a new area. But hopefully when we go through our demonstration today, we're going to cover a lot of that. First and foremost, if you are looking for one single property, or you're looking for an MLS number, or you're looking for an agent name, that's really this power search here at the top. So keep in mind, if you are looking for one property fast, don't be afraid, if I don't fat finger it, don't be afraid to use that power search to quickly find that item. So it's easiest to search by address. As you can see, if I'm looking for 205 Lakeshore, I simply type in 205, start typing the word lake, and of course it pops right up. Now you're probably thinking, Colleen, why are we doing all of this change? Well, remember, you're going to have a lot more data, but with that comes trying to find properties easier, learning some of the tricks. I had no idea, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea as an agent that there were 5 Clinton townships in the state of Michigan. So when you're searching for Clinton Township, how do you know what's the right one? So I'm going to show you those helpful tips today as we go along. One of the new features that Brian turned on Monday for you is the single property website. Now I have to tell you, I am a huge fan of this. I use it on all of I just listed a property up the road and I'm already got it out onto social media. It's one click, it's easy. The single property website is basically anytime you put in a new listing into Paragon now, it will create this beautifully designed single property website with all of your information that you can, with one click, share onto social media and advertise your listing. So let's take a look at that first. Now it can be found in 2 places. We want you to start knowing that everything you're going to see as far as tools that are coming to you, those are going to be found under your resources. And as you can see, Brian has done a great job of kind of organizing those. As things become available, you're going to see them populating in, I call it the agent toolbox. That's the best way to think of it. The agent toolbox is where you're going to find all of your tools so that you can quickly access them. Now, one of the cool things about the single property website is you can actually find that under your property inventory links to see all of them at one time, or you can go simply right to the listing ticket and you're going to find some integration points. The first point of integration is it looks like a little house with a checkbox over it, and it's the single property website. When you click on that little checkbox, it's then going to take you into a single property website for advertising that property and other properties that you, the agent, have. Now, what I like about this is so many times I feel bad. Agents are working so hard. They're taking great photos. They're doing their captions and descriptions. They're writing great comments. And then unfortunately, they're sharing their listing from other IDX sites like Zillow or Realtor.com or other sites like that. And unfortunately, they share it onto social media. And now you've just given all of your hard work to someone who may have bought that zip code or someone who is advertising on that site. So keep in mind, when you share from the single property website, you are sharing your hard work. And you get the leads returned to you. And that's the whole name of the game, right? So from here, let's say that you are getting ready to share this out onto social media. There are just some share buttons over here to the right. So of course you can share it quickly to Facebook. You can send a tweet out with your information on Twitter. You can put your listing on Pinterest. You can email it. You can add it to your LinkedIn profile. But really the whole idea here is that with one click, I want to share this listing onto social media. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the share to Facebook because I think that's the one most of us are familiar with. The nice thing is I can share this directly to my Facebook business page if I choose, which, by the way, if you're advertising your listings, is a good idea. It's always good to share it to your business page first and then to a personal page. This ensures that you're not violating any fair housing rules and only showing it to certain friends. And a lot of times we find that agents just have a small group of friends and then they share it, but unfortunately it can look like it's not made public as it should be. So you want to share it to your Facebook business page, and then of course you can share it to your personal page too. From here, you can also share it to a page you manage. So if you are managing maybe a company Facebook page, you can do that. Share it in an event, share it to a group. And so the idea is you're going to write your call to action and you're going to share it out. I love the way that it looks. They're going to see it very similar to how you're seeing it, but they can go in, they can click on the gallery view here, and I can actually go from photo to photo. I'll go to webinar panel here, and I can see those property photos and simply click through them. So it certainly makes it a whole lot easier to see everything in one place. Then from here, as I scroll down, I can go ahead and schedule a showing, which just basically emails you, the agent, the time that they're going to be available. Up here, it allows you to add a virtual tour and a video tour. And of course, your contact information is here too. What I do like about the virtual and video tour, and let me kind of explain. In your new Paragon, you have branded and unbranded spots that you can enter in your listing that will allow the information to go out. So let me explain the difference between a branded and an unbranded tour. If I am the agent and I want to talk about my new listing, I can say, you know what? My name is Colleen DeLang. I work at ABC Realty. And by the way, let me take you on this tour. Here's my cell phone number. Let me talk to you about, the great features of this listing. And you can have your contact information in a branded tour. When you use the single property website, it automatically pulls your branded tour. So again, if you're sharing this and you want people to see even more about your listing, this allows you to actually put in your contact information and additional details. Now, the reason we have a branded and unbranded is obviously if you are setting your client up, especially if you're using the Collaboration Center, which we have had some classes on this week, and people seem to really be liking working with the Collaboration Center. The Collaboration Center is where you can set up your buyer and automatic notifications go to them when any new listing is entered. So if you have a buyer entered in there, you certainly don't want them getting information about Tom and his company, right? You want them to know all about you and your company. So that's why we have branded and unbranded tours. So as long as you're putting your tour in the branded and making sure the unbranded one, the one that goes out to other agents' clients, is unbranded, it allows you to simply advertise yourself more, and it allows you to get all that information to automatically go right through that single property website for you. So hopefully that makes sense. Scrolling down a little bit further, you're going to see it has a nice clean interface like the buyers are used to when they're using other IDX sites. You'll see that it does give them the room measurements. That's always the number one question is, but does it have the room measurements, Colleen? Does it have the detail? And absolutely it does. So if we scroll down, we can also do a map view. They can see where it lies on the map. They can actually get turn-by-turn directions. But down below, they can also ask the agent questions by immediately being in contact with him. And as I scroll down here, here's that feature I mentioned. Maybe that's not the perfect house for them, but maybe Tom has another active listing, or maybe you're watching a particular pending. All of those are listed right here at the bottom of that single property website. It does also allow you to post solds. And a lot of people ask me, well, Colleen, why would I post a sold? Well, if you have, let's say you got a great story, you had 7 offers on that particular home and you got your seller 20 grand over asking, you might want to publish that success onto Facebook and say, hey, my seller's so happy and they got $20,000 more than they were asking for. Those types of successes are equally as important. And if you're working with a buyer, you can always tout your buyer successes. So the idea is that it's going to allow you to share your actives, pendings, and solds onto social media so that you can share those stories. Now, the good news is there is nothing you have to do to use the single property website. All you have to do is put your listing into Paragon. Once you've done that, you've done all the hard work, you'll receive an email letting you know that the single property website is ready to share. But again, you can go right to that listing ticket. It does take a few minutes for it to be created. So that's why we do send you the email when it's ready. And then you can go ahead and start sharing it right from the listing ticket. Or of course, you can go to your resources where you'll find it as well. All right, so that is one of the new benefits. As Brian mentioned, there are some new features. We're going to take a look at those. But I also wanted to show you when these products become available, like cloud, the showing time link is there. It's ready to use. You can go ahead and quickly schedule using showing time. If you take the Collab Center class, which I strongly recommend you do, that's that automatic prospecting right to your buyer of any new listings. We're also going to show you how to build showing time carts, how to show properties, drop them in a logical routing order, send turn-by-turn instructions, and do it all in one or two clicks instead of having to do each one individually. So there's a lot of cool stuff going there. But you'll see that as more and more products become available, you'll see this integration right here under these quick action links. Now, Brian, as he mentioned, knows that you used a particular report. So we've also recreated that particular report for you. So let me show you where you're going to find it. So if this report really doesn't do it for you, and by the way, you have a lot of reports to choose from now, you have more than you did previously. If this particular report doesn't do it for you, you're going to simply go over to Reports. And you're going to see, now my favorite when I'm working with clients is the client view. So you're going to see some new reports. You'll see some that you saw before. But remember, when you click on them, it will change your report. You can set that to be your default. So that's the report that you use. So for me, I want to show you the UPAR report. So you're going to find that under specialty views, you can favorite it. And by the way, you can move it as well. So if you always want it to be right at the top, you can do that too. But this is the UPAR All Fields Data Report. So it's going to look very similar to the report you used previously. And that way you don't have to learn a whole new layout when you're trying to quickly find a particular field. Remember, you can also text properties as well to clients now. So you can actually say, okay, I want to text this over to my client. You can hit the share button up here at the top, hit that text button, and I can go ahead and add a new contact. Or remember, we did bring over your existing contacts. You do not have to recreate them. They were brought over. I know the first day they were missing a couple email addresses. Those have all been backfilled. So you can actually go into your client list and you should see everything you saw in the previous version. Then there's a lot of questions about, well, Colleen, what about the previous version? What if I want to go back in and check something? Well, as Brian mentioned before, the previous version is still on. Don't worry, you can still go back to the previous version. It's just in a read-only format. So you can't enter or change things in it. But if you just want to make sure all your contacts are there, or you want to go in and look at information, remember, it's still there. You can still see it. It's not going away, not for quite some time at least. And you can go back and reference that information. It's just in a read only. Now from here, when I'm ready to text this listing out, I'm simply putting in their cell number, their first and last name, and hitting save. Now I can go ahead and text this to a client as well. One of the other benefits that you now have, and Brian kind of addressed it a little bit earlier, is the BSNA integration. I love this. I'm going to be totally honest. I love how easy it is to get the BSNA record. Instead of logging out of Paragon, logging into BSNA, then going in, trying to find the municipality, re-entering the property address, you just have a button to do all that hard work. Now, as Brian mentioned, though, if there was a fee, and we want to be very clear about this, if there was a fee for the BSNA record, you're still going to be taken to where you have to pay that fee. It's not waiving the fee. It's just waiving all the work to get to the record. So now here I have to give Brian a little bit of ribbing, and after this week, I don't even know if I should, but when you are looking for the BSNA button, this easy button I like to call it, it looks a little like a trash can. I do apologize. It's actually supposed to be a government pillar, but when Brian was trying to get it on that little button for you, he kind of mushed that pillar down, so it looks a little more like you're going to delete the listing, but it's actually the BSNA government pillar icon that you see right here. And if you run your mouse over it, it'll actually tell you. So if you click on that that trash can looking or government pillar looking icon, it's going to take you directly to that municipality and that property record. Now, again, if there is a fee to access that, it will probably ask for your credit card before you get here. But there is a lot of BSNA municipalities that don't charge. So if there's a charge, you'll still see that. You'll just put in your credit card. And we are aware that there are some areas in the UP that don't use BSNA. So we've heard that on many of the classes too. Keep in mind, we have an alternate source for you to still pull information into your listings when you're creating them. We have all 83 counties, so you still can pull in listings from tax records. So don't worry, even if BSNA is not in that particular area, you can still use that function. We do show that in the listing entry class. And we've got a whole bunch of listing entry classes coming up over the next 2 weeks. So keep in mind, you can actually see how to create your listing right from the tax record. And we'll show you how to use some of the new fields too, and what some of those new fields mean. So remember, you've got that easy button now that's located right within Paragon. As more and more products become available, you'll see that more and more of these icons, you'll be able to use those. Again, single property website is the house with the check. You will see showing time. You'll also see Home Snap coming here shortly. So you'll see more and more of these added as we get the initial roll off. And I know it's been kind of a difficult week, but in our first week of conversion, now that we've got that behind us, we're going to start working on adding in some of these additional pieces. Okay, so let's jump back to the home screen. We talked about finding one property fast, really easy. As Brian mentioned, this is the part we need your help with. You know, we obviously are not selling up in the UP, and some things are very unique to the UP, like ski resort, trail side. Those were things that we did not have down here that we did add. A couple of unique things that we did find is interior lake and Great Lake. Now, I'm happy to say that Brian got both of those added. And we believe it's done this morning, but Brian wants to go in and verify. You should even be able to search on those. So give us till the end of the day just to verify, because I know we saw a lot of those coming in yesterday and we thought they were all backfilled, but they weren't quite done. So you'll be able to search on Great Lake. You'll be able to search on exterior lake. Those have been added to features. We were also told, now again, this is something kind of unique to you, that you have electric at property and electric at street. So that's something Brian is working and will have done over the next couple of weeks, where that will be added, where you can actually open up the same panel. You had electric, it was listed under electric under features before. So you'll have those things. But unfortunately, it is kind of unique to you. It's not something that any of the other data shares are using. And so that's something we have to add in that's really going to be custom. So we appreciate your patience while we go ahead and do that. But where we need your help is under the My Info in your Market Monitor. This is a great way to just check your listings and make sure everything's coming over. If you just click on that number next to your listings or your sales or your pendings, this is going to allow you to open up that report. And it's also going to allow you to make sure everything is looking just as you want it to. Please make sure your photos are there and they look, you know, like everything's coming over properly. We think we've got that all taken care of, but if you see something, this is a great time to report it. Like he said, if you see a county in Wisconsin, for example, you know, we were not even going to add all of the Wisconsin counties. Then we saw how many Wisconsin records that there were. So that was something else we had to sort of add in at the last minute and bring that information over. So if you see something that doesn't look correct, just hit that corrections button right up here at the top. That's going to allow us to address it right away. It goes directly to Brian so that he can figure out, you know, is the county mapped wrong? Is it listed wrong? You don't even have to put what listing it is. We know that right from the record. You don't even have to put your name. All you do have to do is click that corrections button and it's going to alert Brian that there's something on that listing. Just tell us what's wrong and then we can go ahead and take a look at it. Try to be as clear as you can, just so that we know exactly what we're trying to address and it doesn't take longer to, you know, figure out exactly what you're trying to ask. All right, so let's go back into the quick search. Now, some of the enhancements, another reason that working with the MiRealSource Paragon is helpful is we've built in a lot of custom things, such as the full addresses field. Now, full addresses is one of my favorite features, and I asked Brian for, I think, 3 years to build this field, and it was because I wanted to do what clients were doing on sites like Zillow and other IDX sites, I wanted to be able to enter 10 properties quickly and find the information faster than buyers were. So I said, Brian, we got to have a field that just lets us keep typing all the addresses. So if a buyer's calling you and he says, I found these 5 houses on Zillow this morning, I want to find them equally as fast. I don't want to have to go in, do them one by one, then write the ML's number down so I can text them after the call. I want to be able to do all of it at once. So that's really what this full addresses feature is over here. If you do not have the full addresses field in your MLS, I'm going to show you how to add it. And I'm going to show you how to add the UPAR original MLS number, if you will, so that you can still, if you have the old MLS number and you want to look it up really quick, I'm going to show you how to do that too. All right, so over under the full addresses field, let me show you how it works and explain it a little bit, and then I'll show you how to add it in if you don't have it. So if a client just called and said, hey, Colleen, I'm interested in 1871 Cove Street, and I also know that he's interested in 205 Lakeshore, and I also know that he's interested, all I'm doing, I'm continuing to type, as you can see here, and you can put up to 30 addresses in one field. All you're really doing is just hitting enter after you type in the street name, but it does even more for you. Let's say that this is Cove Road or Cove Avenue or Cove Drive. Doesn't matter. It will automatically pull it up for you because there's a secret kind of built-in wildcard at the end, and that makes sure that whether it's avenue, boulevard, circle, place, it's still going to pull it up. Now, however, let's pretend for a moment that there was a client sitting in front of the house and they don't know, is it on South Main Street or North Main Street? You could also just start typing in the address, put an asterisk in front of Main, and then it would find whether it was north, south, east, or west. It'll actually pull up those directionals for you. So keep in mind, you can enter up to 30 properties at once. Now, one of the cool things here too is if I know that they're sitting in front of that home, then maybe I want to say, well, I know it's going to either be an active listing or a pending listing. So I'm going to pick active and pending, and now it's going to filter my results so I'm only seeing the active or pendings of those properties. Again, I go ahead and hit search. It's going to quickly pull those properties up. Maybe I'm ready to show these properties. I can simply check those 2 properties off, go up to my favorite, the easy button here, which is called actions, and I can drop them right into the showing time cart that I mentioned. So I can go right up to the easy button. I can say, okay, I now want to show these 2 properties. I can click showing time, and I can build a showing time cart right from there. And click on my showing time cart and pick the time and date I want to show them. So I'm going to say I'm going to show it tomorrow, and I'm going to show it to my buyer, Barry Buyer here. I'm going to click OK, and now I am ready to go ahead and get those scheduled. All I have to do is pick my time. Here I can see what's a go and show. Do I immediately get the lockbox for that property? Or is this something I'm going to need to wait for that homeowner to confirm? By the way, if you're dropping in a whole bunch of properties, maybe you're showing 5. I wish I was that lucky to have 5 active listings near me at this point. Little joke. You can actually put them in a smart route as well. So you can click a smart route button and have them rerouted. You can pick the time and the date. If something is not available, it will show you as it does here. And it will even show you your drive time, how long it's going to take to get from property 1 to property 2. Looks like 59 minutes, and it's almost 50 miles. And you can add other listings and other listing stops. So a lot of great things that you can do in the showing time system. I'm sorry, Brian, did you have a question? No, okay.
No question.
All right, I love it. So if you do have any questions, and I know I'm kind of doing this at a pretty good clip, remember we are recording this. So if you do miss anything, you can go back and you can actually see the recording. I'm trying to upload those on a pretty daily. Sometimes if we have a lot of classes, like I have several classes today, it may be a day before I get it in there, but we have created a playlist that I'm going to show you at the end, so you can go back and see all of this just in case you miss anything. All right, so we've kind of covered the power search finding a property fast. We've talked about how efficient the full addresses are, but what if you don't see full addresses? And how do you get that UPAR custom field to find the MLS number? So let's look at that next. Almost everything in Paragon has one of these little gears or widgets. That's kind of the nice thing about Paragon is it's really customizable. You don't always have to try to find everything. We're going to show you some secondary criteria cheats today. We're going to show you how to move some of that stuff up. But when you go to your quick search, you're going to see that little gear up here at the top. And if you don't have the full addresses field, so I'm actually going to pull mine out so I can show you how to add it in. Go up to your find box, simply type in the words full. You're going to see full addresses pops right up for you. You're going to check that off. You're going to hit add. And as you can see, it drops it to the bottom. But what if you want full addresses at the top because you use it a lot like I do? You can actually drag that right up to the top and let go, and it will fall in your list where you want it. But there's another really important field that I want you to add. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Another important field that you're going to want to add for this transition is in your previous version of Paragon, you had MLS numbers. But of course, some of those are going to be different because remember, you're looking at a much bigger piece of Michigan now, right? We're looking at properties coast to coast. So we want to make sure that we can find things quickly if we have the old UPAR MLS number. So how you're going to do that is you're actually going to go to find and you're going to type in UPAR. That's going to bring up the UPAR MLS number. This was your old MLS number. So if somebody does call you with an old MLS number or you have the printout on your desk and you're trying to find it, quite honestly, most of us just search by agent or by address anymore as agents. But just in case you need it, simply check off the UPAR MLS number, hit add, and again, you can move that right up to the top if that's something that you always want to search by. Once you're done, just go ahead and apply it, and that's going to appear now over in your quick search so that you can find those things quickly. Okay, so two fields you're going to want to make sure you have. Full addresses over here and that UPAR, basically your UPAR original MLS number. Those are two things that are going to help through this conversion. All right, so let's go talk about searching. Let's talk about fields, and let's talk about a common trouble ticket that I'm getting right now, and that is how do you find some of the basics like acreage and year bill, things that we search on all the time. So let's go up to our search. So just as kind of a recap, if you're looking for one property fast, the power search is the way to go. If you're looking for a couple properties they found on, an IDX site or, you just quickly are on the phone with someone, quick search is a great option. However, if you've really got to search for a buyer and you're saying, you know what, this buyer is looking for a land contract and he's looking in this city and he's looking for so many bedrooms, well, really, that's when you're going to do your more detailed search right up here at the top. When I click on search, I'm going to go ahead and of course you can search by class. So single family, vacant land, whatever you're looking for. This is also where you can search inventory, open houses. You can find your saved searches. This is a great searching tool. But right up here, I'm going to search for a single family home. Now, this is going to contain some different fields. So one of the things I added to this search was full addresses too. Remember, you can customize this just like I showed you customizing your quick search. As Brian mentioned, though, there are going to be a few differences as far as the statuses and the names. So let's take a quick look over here. So if I'm not sure what status I'm looking for, I can simply click on that magnifying glass, and it's going to show me all the statuses to choose from. Now, as Brian mentioned before, some of the naming schemes might be slightly different, like closed. It used to be sold for you, and now it's closed. It still says sold and closed here, not really hard. But as Brian mentioned before, your board may not adopt a particular status like coming soon. And remember, before you wouldn't have seen that, right? Because your board doesn't use it. But now with data sharing, it's a much bigger piece of the pie, right? So we're now seeing coming soons. We're seeing things like accepting backup offers. And you do want to be familiar with those statuses. A coming soon simply means it can't be shown until it's active, and you can have a coming soon for up to 7 days. Doesn't have to be the whole 7 days. It could be 2 days. But this kind of goes back to the policy 8 rule. It was the whole idea was to keep agents from pocket listing things where you put them into the MLS, but you may still need a little extra time before putting it on the market. So anyway, if you have questions on that, that's a great thing to see your MLS or association board if you have questions on any of that. The accepting backup offers basically is you have an offer and it's been signed, so it's really kind of pending, but you want to continue to show it. That's another status you're going to want to be familiar with. Then some of the questions that came in yesterday, well, what if I don't want to show it and I have an offer? Well, then you're simply going to make it pending. And then that's going to go into the pending status. So we understand there might be a few different naming schemes, but you're going to find everything you need within that status category. Another popular question that I'm getting right now, and I'm just going to say that I am looking for actives and I'm looking for closed. I'm just going to show you a couple quick examples here. Maybe I want closed in the last 6 months. As Brian mentioned, you do have a sale and rent now within. So if I'm looking for just properties for sale, I can click that drop down. But one of the other questions that's coming in quite regularly were, Colleen, how do I know, and I'm just going to use my example, how do I know which of those Clinton Townships is the Clinton Township I want? It's a really good question because before you would only see what was in your counties, but now you're looking again across the state. I had no idea that there was 5 Clinton Townships in Michigan, so I thought that was kind of funny. But one of the questions we got was on Houghton. I had no idea there were that many Houghtons as well. So how do you find the particular Houghton or Houghton Lake or that you're looking for in the county you're looking in? So here's a little cheat. Basically, when you are looking, so if I'm using my Clinton Township example, if you're looking at these numbers, the first 2 is actually the identifier of the county. So if I am looking for the Clinton Township in Macomb County, I can go to county and see, oh, it's 50. So if I'm now looking for the Clinton Township in Macomb County, I know that's going to be the identifier. But here's an even easier way. If you simply enter the county, so we're going to do Macomb County again. If you simply enter the county, when you go to area, and now when I type in Clinton Township, I'm only seeing the Clinton Township in that county. So that will help eliminate those wrong choices or picking the wrong city. So for you, and I got a call on this one earlier, so I'm just going to use that one. I had a call from a gentleman who said, hey, I'm looking for Houghton County, but I had no idea there were all these Houghtons. I don't even know where some of these are. Remember, if you type in the county, you're only going to see the Houghtons in Houghton County. Okay. If you do notice a discrepancy or something that doesn't look right in a particular county, that's again when we want you to hit that corrections button and let us know, because obviously you're an expert up there. And although Brian has worked hard to try to map in all the counties, it's taken a little bit longer due to adding Wisconsin and things like that. So do let us know if some of the areas or counties or a city within the county doesn't look correct to you. All right, so down here, a lot of these you should be pretty familiar with, but I want to cover some of the features. If you are new to Paragon, you might have not used features before. So think of features like this: must have, must not have, or must have at least one of these items to make it onto my buyers list. So again, I use the Collab Center for buyers. If I have a buyer who says, Colleen, we must have an in-ground pool, or I must have a finished basement, I don't want him to get a bunch of stuff without that. So I want to set up his search to include those items. Must not have, I recently had told a story that when we were getting ready to close on their home, Unfortunately, we found out that their septic, although she had been told it was newer, she had not had it tested, and she found out it was leaking like a sieve, and it was actually 17 years old. And she found out right before closing that she had to put in a raised engineered septic field in the amount of $17,000. And on $100,000, that's a pretty good swing. And here in Macomb County, where I am, we have a well and septic ordinance. So in order for a property to close, it has a pass or fail, and it was not good. So basically, when she called me to find her new home, she said, you know what, Colleen, do not send me one property with a septic field. I don't want to maintain it. I don't want to deal with it. So what we did is we set her up with a must not have. Septic is required if it has a septic. So therefore, she did not get anything in her collaboration center that was on a septic field. But then, of course, there's must have one or more. Maybe you have a client who has a boat and he either has to be on the river or on the canal, but he wants to be able to have his boat at his house. You can actually choose from must have one or more. So let's take a look at the features. Because you're going to have a lot more features than you do, if you click on that than you did previously, you are going to click on that magnifying glass, and that's going to open up all the feature categories. Now, I just want to tell you up front, because I know we get a lot of tickets on this, there is one Brian is in the process of adding, and that's the one I mentioned earlier, that's electric. So we realize currently we have some electric fields in here, but they were not really the ones that you needed. You wanted a space that said electric at street, electric at house, and whole house generator. So Brian is adding, it's not there yet, so don't look for it yet, it's not there. Brian is adding another set of features that will be under electric, and it will contain those items. So don't panic, it's coming. But a lot of the ones that you submitted this week, we've already gotten them in here. So just give us a little bit of time to get that one in too. All right, so let's take a look. One of the questions I got through support was, what about appliances? Where do I specify? Well, you have a whole feature section for appliances. Just about everything is there. What about finished basements? You're going to go into basement. You're going to see finished basement right here. So if your client must have a finished basement, that's what you're going to select right from here. The one I think I'm getting the most questions on, well, actually two of them, I think, are the water features. Now, this is one that Brian's worked hard to add, and as of today, you should be able to search on it as well as add it to new listings. Brian is still verifying that. It does take a little while to do these types of changes. It's a lot quicker than if you went to, the MLS and asked them to do it, because Brian is fortunate enough that he can write what makes that happen behind the scenes. But if we go over to water features, this has been kind of confusing for some people, so I want to point this out. The two that we did not have that you guys had were Great Lake and Interior Lake. Now you can see right here, those have been added. Yesterday we were told that the backfilling was complete, but there was still some that hadn't been backfilled. So Brian did get that. We think that's complete today, but by the end of the day, we should know for sure that all of those have been backfilled. So you can search on them and add them in. So that's Great Lake and Interior Lake, but you're going to have a whole lot more to choose from. I got a call this morning saying, well, there's no pond. And absolutely, there's pond, there's river frontage. You're going to have a lot more than you even did previously. There's creek, canal front. There is all sports lake, no wake lakes, no motor lakes, commons to waterfront. That was the one we had to add when we added Claire Gladwin. They have a big community called Sugar Springs, and they have a lot of commons to waterfront, which again was something new. We don't have that in our area. So we appreciate your patience as we continue to add in those differences. And not all of them can be added. Let me clarify. They do have to meet REALTOR standards, meaning it can't be something so unique that no one else in the whole wide world would ever use that, right? It has to be something that makes sense and follows that REALTOR standard. And Brian's actually on the REALTOR committee, so no one knows more about that than him. All right, so other ones that I wanted to bring up was, we get a lot of questions about, well, Colleen, why, if I'm adding a listing, does it ask me financial terms? Well, it does want to know, are you just accepting cash? Are you offering land contract terms? Because when people are searching for those things, we want to identify your listing so it pops right up. So remember, you have a whole section on financial terms, and you can also add these to your listing. So if you're just accepting cash, it's not a mortgageable property, then you want to alert people to that so that it pops up to that. You can also put that in comments or your description. All right, I'm trying to think of other here's another really common question. And I've gotten this several times this week, and this one is kind of a pet peeve of mine. Brian knows this, but right now, if you are looking for acreage, if you are looking for year built, you might not find those, and as a matter of fact, you won't find them in the top half right here, because they're actually listed under secondary criteria. Now, I'm going to be honest. Here's where I kind of, my MLS hat comes off and my agent hat comes on. Those are things I search on all the time as an agent. So if I click this drop down under secondary criteria, this is my pet peeve right here. It doesn't look like it does anything. Okay, so I click this little secondary criteria button, but you will see it actually moves the scroll bar because you have a whole second set of criteria. Now, basically, I'm begging Brian to move acreage and year built out of that secondary criteria. But if you don't want to wait for Brian, you can do this today, right now, like I've done in my real life searching. You're going to go to customize, and you're going to go to fields. Just like I showed you in the quick search, you can drag and drop these into different orders. You can take stuff out of the secondary criteria and move it into your primary criteria. And I would strongly recommend doing that for these two items. So under the containers here, you can see what's currently in there. So if I click on secondary criteria, I basically want to pull acreage and year built right out of that secondary criteria. Just remove those suckers out of there, just take them out. Now, what I want to do is I want to switch this over to my primary, and I want to go to year, check off year built, add it to where you really need it, and that is your primary. You again can move that up or down in the boxes. This is how Paragon was created. It's kind of how it comes out of the box, but you don't have to leave it that way. Make sure you customize it. That's the unique thing about Paragon. You don't want to always scroll down to the bottom for something you need. So simply move things like year built, move that pesky acreage out of there. It doesn't really belong there, in my opinion. Check it off, hit add, and move it into your primary. Just remember to hit apply so that it stays there. All right, so we've talked about adding in the UPAR MLS number. We've talked about features. Yes, unfortunately, there are going to be some additional fields that you're going to see, and especially on the listing side. So I'm just going to go into my listing here and kind of give you some of the common trouble tickets that I'm seeing right now. So I'm just going to go into my current listing and show you some of the things you're going to want to be aware of, because we're getting a lot of questions, which is good. That means you guys are looking at it. We love when you submit your feedback. Asking questions is great. Sometimes the feedback can be a little less, it's hard to change, and we understand that. Just let us know what you're struggling with, and I promise you we will work our best to get it added or get it resolved. And sometimes it's really just looking in a different place. So if I go into maintain, and by the way, all of your listings have all of these additional things. You're going to be able to share them out on Facebook. A common question we're getting is, can I copy or clone an old listing that was in the old system? Absolutely. Brian worked hard to bring over all of your history. So every single thing is there. So you can still copy and clone those. You can share to Twitter. You can use the collab link. You can, if you're a broker, and you can mark it sold, add open houses. All of this is under maintaining, and we cover this in the listing and maintenance class. But in this case, we're going to click on maintain a listing for a moment and talk about some of the common questions that we're getting right now. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see there. Actually, let me blow it up a little bit more for you. There we go. So if I scroll down, one of the common questions is coming in under compensation. Okay, this is a good one. I got a very unhappy email, unfortunately, from an agent who said, "How dare you ask me to put in my compensation? I have never had to put that in as a listing agent before." And you are right. We would not ask you to do that now. I would not do that myself as a listing agent. What this is not seller's agent. This is sub agency. This is what would you pay a sub agent, buyer's agent, or if it's a transaction coordinator and you're willing to work with them, a non-agent. So this is not asking for the listing agent's compensation. So let me be very clear. This is sub-agent. This is, if you have questions, there's a whole thing with the Michigan Realtor Association. They have a whole bunch of information on this, but it is the sub-agent, buyer's agent, and non-agent compensation. You could choose from percentage, you could choose from dollar, or graduated and tiered. Now, you as a board may not use graduated and tiered, or maybe your brokerage doesn't use that. But remember, you may see that through the data share, so do be aware of what those items are. This is also where you are going to see those branded and unbranded tours I talked about. So again, if you've got a great virtual tour and, "Hi, my name is Colleen DeLang, I work at ABC Brokerage, would love to help you get in this home. Here's my cell phone," that is a branded tour. An unbranded video or virtual tour is just where there's no contact information. It's just describing the house or showing the home. Some of the other, I'm trying to think of all the help tickets I've been helping out with so that I can cover all the things that may be slightly different. Remarks. When we got into our remarks, we had 1,000 characters in remarks. But we found out going through this was kind of something we didn't realize, is you guys had 2,000 characters in your remarks, I believe it was. So Brian actually expanded yesterday. He worked really hard on this. Believe me, when I say he is working hard, you have no idea, trying to make this as seamless as possible. He actually increased that to 2,000. But remember, on top of that, when you are adding your photos, you have an additional 255 characters in your descriptions for your photos. You can label those photos. So I could say this is, the front of the home. I could say this is the 2-story pole barn. And of course, I can put in a full description for that photo and as far as those characters. So keep in mind, you've got those additional places should you even need more information there too. We do want you to add your disclosures and your lead-based paint documents to the documents area. And as you can see, I've added my aerial view as well as my seller's disclosure and lead-based paint. And there is a reason for that, by the way. We also want you to add things, and I find if you will add things like your bylaws or your condo rules and regs into this area, it is so nice, because if I'm going to go show 5 condos and I find that they have a dog and, can they have Fido at your particular condo, I got to call 5 agents to try to figure out, are they going to allow dogs, or I'm trying to find a homeowners association to figure that out, right? Wouldn't it be great if you just had the rules and regs or the bylaws right in the documents area? So as I'm showing the condo, I can just open it on my phone and say, "Oh yeah, you can have 2 dogs and there is a size limit," or you can only have up to 2 dogs. It is so nice when you don't have to call the agent. So those are great things that you can add under associated documents. The reason you want to do that too, and I'll just tell you a story that just happened to me. When one of the new benefits that you're going to have, and it's not released yet, so please don't look for it at this very moment, it's not released just yet, but HomeSnap Pro Premium. Now, a lot of you are familiar with HomeSnap Pro, but the Pro Premium does something that Brian has worked really hard behind the scenes to make sure that those associated documents show up on your phone when you're showing the property. So for instance, if you put the rules and regs in there and I'm showing your condo, when I'm at the property, I can click on it, it pops up on my phone, and I can even share it to the buyer standing next to me. So I was previously showing homes in St. Clair Shores recently, and there was some evidence of water on the floor. St. Clair Shores has had some flooding. They had some issues with the drains a while back. And so my buyer asked me, was this from the flooding, or is this like a sub pump failure kind of thing? I mean, is this something we need to look at? So I was actually able to, right on my phone, open up the seller's disclosure. Sure enough, they had listed that they did have a sump pump backup, and that was what the water was from. But it was so nice because I didn't have to go back to the office, pull up the disclosures. I didn't have to walk around with a bunch of disclosures with me. It's right on your phone, and that's the benefit of HomeSnap Pro Plus. You also can edit your listing. So if you're on this call, we'll pretend that I'm on this call and, oh, knock on wood, I just took an offer and bottom line did I don't want any more showings on my property. I want to mark it pending. I can go ahead and do that from the palm of my hand. I can edit my listings that way. So HomeSnap really is your mobile MLS. We're going to start teaching classes on that. I think it's 8 or 9 days. We scheduled our first one. Anyway, that's a great product. I love it. I know a lot of you are familiar with the basics, but you're going to have some enhancements there that are really exclusive to us, and I'm really excited to show you those as well. All right. Okay, so you're probably thinking at this point, okay, well, what about the data sheets? How do I get the listing in there? Well, remember that we do have a listing input class. We have a couple of them coming up. We're going to show you how to put those listings in. In addition to that, in your go-to webinar panel where you were asking questions, if you were putting questions in there, I have attached 5 handouts. There is the data, there's a couple of the data sheets, for example. There's how to add photos and descriptions. There's the conversion information Brian went over. There's how to map in Paragon. So there's a lot of great information in there. But I do want to call your attention. We have data sheets for residential, condo, multifamily, vacant land. There's different data sheets for each, obviously. But I do want to call your attention that you guys had some additional fields. I did want to let you know that ZipForm already, I know you guys use ZipForm, they already have the data sheet that you're looking at right now. We are getting it turned on, so you will have access shortly. It is not done yet, so if you go in there, you will not see it in zip form yet. You will have access to it shortly, but this is the data form. I just grabbed the residential condo just to kind of show you. You do have more fields. Some of them are, again, you'll see a few more required fields, but this will allow you to go right down the features, check them off so that you have them, but there is an additional page for you. It's called the UPAR data sheet. And this is going to cover those things that were really specific to you. Now, ZipForm has not created this. They just got it because Brian just made it. So these are things that were additional to you, things like trailside description, ski resort name, channel, Great Lakes, interior lakes, pond, river, stream, creek. Those were the things. Now, again, these are under features right now. But those were things that were unique to you, as well as which MLS, which I know that you're kind of one, but you guys have different, I believe it's kind of regions. And so you can actually see that here. So this is in the process of getting created, and this will be available in zip form too. So they are in the GoToWebinar panel. You can download them if you want. But we've also put them into MLS docs right within the MLS. So if you click on this MLS docs right up here at the top, and by the way, you won't see all this, you'll only see yours here at the bottom. You'll see the UPAR conversion. That's the document Brian went over with you with the login and the information you might need to know, as well as the MLS data sheets. They're all listed here. Just remember, you do have that additional page for the extras, and then the other data sheets are listed here as well. Now, someone said, well, there's a few features that aren't in the right order. Well, that's because, remember, we've added some of those things that were custom to you. So they may not follow exact yet, but they will. We'll get those additional things added and updated in zip form for you too. Okay, so if you're like me, you're probably thinking, wow, Colleen, this kind of seems like a lot of information. What if I'm just looking for some quick comps, in my area? Remember, the easiest way to find comps is to use the map search. If you go right into the map search field, and we use Google Maps, it really makes it nice and easy. You've probably seen this. I'm just going to take off these labels real quick just so you can See it a little clearer there. You've probably seen the mapping within Paragon before. Remember that Brian has added some enhancements. You can actually have up to 10 shapes for a buyer. So let's say for a moment, I'll give you a couple examples here. Let's say for a moment that you have a buyer, he is looking to stay south of Oakwood, but maybe he's looking not to cross South Main Street because his mother-in-law lives over there. So you can actually draw up to 10 shapes on the map. You'll see it's now auto-populating those comps right in there for me, or where my buyer wants to live if I'm looking for actives. But a lot of people don't realize if you are actually looking for comps, sometimes the easiest thing to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit this, take that off. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to simply add an address in this field. So let's say that you are looking for comps for a new listing appointment on 41539 Wessel. This happens to be Wessel Drive, but you want to remember Google works best when you add less information. So I just put in the address, comma, the city. Click that magnifying glass, and basically what that's going to do is it's going to find that property on the map for me. Yep, right here. Now I want to find comps within 1 mile or 5 miles or however long. Maybe you want to do half a mile. You can do that, 0.50. So I'm basically now creating my radius of my comparables that I'm looking for. And by the way, these little clusters, they just mean that the properties were close together. So if you click in, you can go all through there and see all the properties laid out. I can jump right to the MLS number. You can also grab this little yellow Google man right here, and you can walk down the street. And this is nice because remember, you're covering a much bigger area now. So if you don't want to drive an hour across town to preview the property, use that little Google man. You can walk down the street. You can see the property to the left, the property to the right. I can literally tour the entire neighborhood. And by the way, if you use the Collab Center, your buyers can do this too. They can literally walk down the street, see the properties to the left, properties to the right, and tour the neighborhood before ever leaving to go do so. And it even flags the subject property. So you see that little pin that was on our map? That's the subject property right there. So it's a really cool way to kind of tour the neighborhood ahead. What else did I want to show you? I wanted to show you, let me bounce back here for just a moment. You can also exclude a particular area. So I'm going to use Cindy Spafford because I haven't got to talk to her in a while, and nice to see your name on the call. So I'm going to actually pretend that Cindy right here listed these 3 properties. So Cindy listed these 3 properties, but we're going to pretend for a moment that they're $1 million waterfront properties. I obviously don't want those $1 million waterfront properties to screw up my CMA numbers, right? I'm listing this little brick ranch right back here. I don't want it to mess up what my CMA would be. So I can exclude those waterfront properties. I can literally go to draw. I can draw onto the map. And I can say, okay, although I'm really excited that Cindy has these $3 million properties, I want to exclude those particular properties by simply clicking on that blue check mark. I now can remove that from what's going to be part of my CMA. And we have a whole CMA class coming up starting next week where we're going to show you how to take all those properties, how to filter them down, even use the new Cloud Live that you'll have access to that will do calculations for you on square footage. It even allows you to pull in comps while you're at a seller's house that you didn't include. It has a live interactive MLS map. So if your seller says to you, well, Joe Schmagegi on the corner, he closed yesterday and I don't see it in here, and you know, well, you only pulled ranches and he has a colonial, you can still pull it up in front of them. You can go through it or even add it to your CMA. So it's incorporated while you're sitting there. So has some very, very cool features. That class is coming up next week. You will not be losing any of your cloud information. It's simply being moved. That's why there was a delay. We had to get everything set up in Paragon so that Brian could get all of that information moved. We were notified by Lone Wolf yesterday that those have been moved. Brian did want to go in and verify that just to make sure, so that's why we pushed the class out till next week. So a lot of these things, we appreciate your patience. It's been an ongoing thing. It's kind of like you can't do this until you get this done, and that's of course where we are. So we appreciate your patience in the first week of cutover. We know it hasn't gone perfectly, but keep in mind we're trying to add these things as fast as we can to make it as seamless as possible. All right, Brian, lastly, where do you find this video? So if you are like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I need to see it again, I totally understand. You can actually find this video at our YouTube channel. So what I did is I was sort of tasked with putting some playlists together for everyone to use as a resource. So what I did is if you go to MiRealSource Media, in YouTube, that is our YouTube channel. And I'm going to just show it to you. Hold on one second. Let me get there. I move my little go-to webinar box. If you go to MiRealSource Media, that is the channel that we set up so that we could create playlists for everybody. So if you go to playlists, right, and if you click on the playlist button, you'll actually see the playlist called Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors. All you have to do is click on that playlist. Every single class since the beginning is listed right here. Again, we have classes on the Collab Center. If you haven't taken that one, it's really cool. I promise you, it's a great way to get your buyers off of IDX sites like Zillow and others and onto a site where you can see what they're doing and you have more updated information because it uses the actual MLS versus a feed. So some cool stuff there. We'll show you some tips and tricks. The welcome class, what you need to know, listing entry. Searching on full addresses. So you'll see this class will be uploaded this evening. So keep in mind, this playlist is there as a resource. So if you just need a little help or you need to see something again, start here. You do have support, as Brian mentioned, 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's in-house. This is not like support where you wait on hold and are transferred to another country. These are in-house people. Brian and I both take a lot of support questions and emails every day. So don't be surprised if we're the one calling you back or emailing you back on something. And the idea is we want this to be a nice, smooth transition. And so the more feedback that you give us, you know, the more corrections you report, the quicker we'll make sure that this is working perfectly for you. All right, Brian, do we have any questions?
We do not. There are no questions.
All right. Awesome. Well, in that case, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Happy selling, and hope you have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brian. Great job.
You too.